Alrighty, folks, 2025 has come to a close, and with it, my top 25 albums of the year. Now, this list was pretty hard to make. It felt like quite a fruitful year for music. Dare I say, reminiscent of a 2016, just in terms of number of good releases coming out. But yeah, with much deliberation, I got my list compiled here, and so without further ado, let's give it a go. Number 25, we have Tame Impala with their album Deadbeat. Deadbeat shows Kevin Parker going in a bit of a sonic detour from the psych rock sounds that we are used to from him, and instead moving into more of house and techno music. I realized that this did leave a lot of fans wanting or expecting more from him, but to be honest with you, it felt like a pretty logical transition for him, as we've seen glimpses of this in his earlier projects. On this album, you're getting everything from a more stripped back sound, such as Dracula or My Old Ways, very catchy songs, to more epic techno adventures, such as Ethereal Connection or End of Summer. But yeah, I mean, I saw this album getting a lot of hate this year, and to be honest with you, I think it was pretty good, and the album will age fairly well within the Tame Impala Kevin Parker universe. Number 24, Chance the Rapper with Starline. Starline is the long-awaited return of Chance since his very public flop in 2019 with The Big Day. I grew up on Chance the Rapper, and he's definitely one of my favorite artists, so to see him just back in form is amazing. This is the most mature that we've ever heard Chance. He speaks a lot of self-introspection on this album, self-improvement, while also bringing themes of Black history and likening that to today's social struggles. The first half of this album has some very high highs. Starside intro, No More Old Men, or Back to the Go featuring Vic Mensa. I'd like to also shout out that Joe sample on Back to the Go with End of Beginning. Really cool use of that song and just kind of tapping into the Chicago roots. Where this album falls short for me is just the fact that it's a bit inconsistent. While there are some really high highs on this project, there are some pretty monotonous songs as well, such as Space and Time or Link Me to the Future, for example. But yeah, I'm really happy to see Chance back in his bag, and I look forward to hearing what he has coming out next. Number 23, I have the album 2 from Fox Warren. Fox Warren is the side project of artist Andy Schaaf. This album is very creative and genre bending. Sonically, it incorporates sounds of unique sampling, some hip hop sensibilities, and really groovy bass lines, and even at times some orchestral moments, which just creates this really cool patchwork of sounds. This is a very catchy and light-hearted sort of listen. Highlights on this album being songs like Listen to Me, Dance, or Deadhead really will give you a sense of if you'd like to listen to the rest of this album. It's very sonically cohesive. It was hard to put down when I started getting obsessed with it. Number 22, Jid with God Does Like Ugly. Jid is back, and it's pretty safe to say that he's going to deliver anytime he releases. And this album is no exception. The themes on this album cover faith and hardship, more so than previous records. And truly, there are just some of the highest highs of his career throughout this album. I'm talking songs like Glory, Community with Clips, VCRs with that incredible Vince Staples verse, and even more experimental sound for him like Skate. Those songs were all in heavy rotation for me this year. Unfortunately, this album just doesn't hold up all the way through. There's honestly some of my least favorite Jid songs in his discography on the latter half of this album, such as Wholeheartedly or Nobu. They just didn't work for me. I did see this album on tour this year in Madison, Wisconsin, and it was a really awesome show. Number 21, I have Horse Girl with their album Phonetics On and On. Horse Girl is an indie rock trio out of Chicago, Illinois. Their sound is a very minimalist indie rock sort of sound, and what kind of sets them apart sonically is the use of dual guitars. There's a lot of really catchy and interesting guitar riffs on this album in which the two guitars are talking back to one another. I just found that really cool. I also saw these guys live this year, and it was an awesome show. Number 20, Smurs with Big City Life. Smurs is a band from Oslo, Norway. Their sound mixes quite a big range of genres, including sort of off-kilter pop, dream pop, and heavy synths. On this album, there are very ethereal vocals, really cool use of guitars. I'm honestly at a bit of a loss for words describing how this sounds. If you're into that sort of music scene coming out of Oslo right now, such as ML Bush, this is definitely a must check out. Number 19, I have Nourished by Time with The Passionate Ones. This album right here is kind of in its own class of genre. My best way of describing it would be sort of R&B mixed with new wave. And through this jumble of sounds, there are some real hits that come out of this. Lots of songs are very danceable, very replayable just because of their unpredictability. The themes of this record cover existentialism, consumerism, and love. Really cool project. Definitely recommend everyone checks it out. At number 18, I have Westside Gunn with Heels Have Eyes Too. Alright, now mind you, this album cover changed due to a rights battle with WWE. So this is a bit of a gruesome album cover. I do prefer the original, but that's alright. Here it is. I would say that Heels Have Eyes 2 is the best of the Heels Have Eyes series. There's been 3 of them out this year. You really know what to expect from Westside Gunn at this point. Very beautiful and elegant soul sampling, oftentimes mixed with very gritty and dark bars. But again, yeah, we kind of know what to expect from Westside Gunn at this point. He's my favorite rapper. He just sounds very hungry on this project, which I can appreciate. Number 17, I have Alex G with the album Headlights. This album is like bedroom indie folk vibes to the best that it can sound. It's a very polished album while still having hints of experimentation that Alex G is known for. These songs are really catchy. They were constantly getting stuck in my head. And there's not really much more I want to say about this one. It also has a really cool album cover. Number 16, Alan Sparhawk and Trampled by Turtles with their self-titled album. Now, if you're at all familiar with the Duluth music scene, you know that these artists both came out of that city, and Alan is grieving the loss of his wife and musical collaborator, Mimi Parker. On this album, Trampled by Turtles gives the perfect soundscape for Alan's songwriting to really shine. It's an extremely heart-wrenching and just sad album to listen to, but in turn, it's very beautiful and resolute in a way. This feels like friends looking out for each other when they're in need. Sonically, I would say that this is Baroque folk music. The last thing I'd like to mention about this album is the only time I've found myself just break down in tears during a listening this year was to this album, and that is the Screaming song. Truly an emotional roller coaster with the violin playing in the second half of the track mimicking someone screaming and screeching. It just hit me out of nowhere and left me very emotional. Honestly, pretty incredible how music can do that. Number 15, I have Glory from Perfume Genius. Another hauntingly beautiful album from Perfume Genius. Themes on this album are very dark and introspective. and often covering topics surrounding queer identity. The production by Blake Mills all over this album is just beautiful. Really great work by the two of them. Number 14, I have Japanese Breakfast with For Melancholy Brunettes and Sad Women. This is another very rich sounding project, incorporating aspects of shoegaze and just heavier guitars than we've heard on previous Japanese Breakfast albums. As the title suggests, Michelle incorporates themes of sadness all throughout the project, but instead of it being in a depressing way, she's actually presenting this sadness as a lens for better understanding yourself and improving yourself as a human. I feel that this is a really beautiful way to look at sadness, and I felt like I gleaned a lot of understanding from her writing on this. Number 13, I have Sharon Van Etten and the Attachment Theory with their self-titled album. Sharon Van Etten is a longtime indie darling, and this is a bit of a detour from her normal sound and finds her experimenting with dream pop and dark gaze, very 80s, 90s inspired. There's amazing bass playing all throughout this album. Really impressed by that. And this was just an extremely cohesive concept for this band to tackle. I hope that this isn't just a one and done. I'd love to see another album from them. Sharon's haunting vocals just fit perfectly over this type of sound. This is another one that I saw live in concert this year, and it just blew me away. Really great project, had a lot of spins for me this year. Number 12, Tyler Childers with Snipe Hunter. Snipe Hunt is a country album that also delves into many other genres such as gospel, psychedelia, and rock. Very progressive country songwriting, kind of feels like it's taking country back to its roots. This album was also produced in tandem with Rick Rubin, which gives it its very unique sound. Yeah, this is Country Album of the Year. I'm just going to say it. At number 11, I have Haim with I Quit. There is some really catchy songwriting and pop hooks all throughout this. This time they are over a bit more of a loose rock instrumentation versus the glossy produced sound that we've heard from them in the past. This is just a lot messier and looser feeling than those previous projects, which actually gives it its allure. The song Gone has my favorite guitar solo of the year. And yeah, there's just a lot of highlights on this one. Down to Be Wrong was on constant rotation for me. Number 10, Dijon with the album Baby. Baby is Dijon's second album and features a very big emphasis on the family that he's starting. The themes on this album are very monogamous. They talk about his children, they talk about his wife in very beautiful ways, and that's just not something you see a lot in popular music. The production on this album is just stunning. It's glitchy and it's almost a collage of different sounds. I have no idea how it works so well, but it does. It's very sonically challenging. You really don't know what's coming next, and that makes it so there's a lot of replay value. Coming in at number 9, I have Viagra Boys with their album Viagra Boys. This album really clicked for me more than any previous Viagra Boys album has. The writing on this album blends their very signature flavor of humor with a deep emotional depth that comes quite unexpected at times. There's some really cool droning and shoegazy type of instrumentation. And yeah, I just can't really think of anyone to compare this to. They're really in a league of their own, and I was quite addicted to this one. Coming in at number 8, I have Youth Lagoon with Rarely Do I Dream. This album was recorded featuring audio from found VHS tapes of Trevor Power's childhood. This makes it an extremely nostalgic sounding listen. Not only that, but there are very unique and inventive compositions all throughout this project. Listening to this album feels like seeing your life play out in front of you. It's a really unique listen, and I highly recommend it. Number 7, I have Saba and No ID with From the Private Collection of Saba and No ID. As the title suggests, this is a very artsy album, and we see a great cohesion between rapper and producer. The production is just immaculate on this. Lots of triumphant horns, really interesting samples, and cool groovy bass lines. The raps from Saba just provide a very good message about community and friendship, and it comes across in a very genuine and not corny way. It just has a lot of replay value for me. Really great listen, can listen to it in any type of mood. At number 6, I have Rosalia with Lux. Lux is a very inherently human album. Rosalia sings in over 13 different languages throughout this track list. This project was recorded with the London Symphony Orchestra, which gives it a very grandiose feel. I really feel like this breaks the mold of what a pop album can and should be. And yeah, again, there's just a big emphasis on the human creation that went into this album. I find that as AI begins to take over our art spaces, it's just going to come down to the integrity of the artist to say that they put their heart and soul into a project. And this is an example of that at the highest level. This is not as good as Motomami to me, which is her magnum opus, but I love this album. I will listen to it forever and ever. Number 5, it is Double Infinity from Big Thief. This is possibly my personal favorite from Big Thief. There's just this 90s drum aesthetic that is to die for. I don't know how to explain it other than the fact that the snares just sound like they came from the 90s. They're so crisp and so heavy in the mix, which is just something I'm addicted to. Adrian Lenker's very sprawling and artistic songwriting is on full display here. After researching into this album a bit more, I learned of a very unique recording method that they use to create this. My understanding is that they basically spent 8+ hours per day in a studio together in New York with a rotating cast of musicians, and they would just jam and basically they would pull out the sections of the music that they liked to create this album. This clearly allowed for the band's instincts alone to direct the sounds and musical decisions. Number 4, Kali Uchis with Sincerely. Sincerely features very touching songwriting and instrumentation. Many aspects of Kali's singing on this remind me of some of my favorite artists, such as Lana Del Rey. Sonically, this is very futuristic R&B. The songwriting is vulnerable and intimate and just plain sexy. Just truly a lush and gorgeous sound throughout, and the sequencing is such that you can just play the album all the way through, and it really makes sense. No skips along the way. Number 3, I have Clips with Let God Sort 'Em Out. I'm just going to come out and say that this is the best produced album of the year. Pharrell's work on the production and beats is just beautiful. In terms of the rapping on this album, every single bar is a punchline. I mean, truly, it's just punchline after punchline. Like, you read through the lyrics and it just cracks you up with how many clever references and hits they do have on this. The lyrical content mixed that grimy coke rap that they're known for with spiritual and self-reflection type of bars. This actually ended up being deeply personal in moments such as Birds Don't Sing. This is truly my hip-hop album of the year. It's just so damn good, and Clips and Malice have such good chemistry with each other. At number 2, I have Geese with Getting Killed. Getting Killed is the third full-length album from New York rock band Geese. On this project, we see them going with a more stripped back, almost Velvet Underground-esque sound. The lyrics on this reflect the unstable and chaotic world we live in today. This project is sonically challenging in such a pleasing way. The more you listen to it, the more you pick out those fine details that just keeps drawing you in again and again. The songs on this album that took a while for me to click with ended up becoming my favorites after additional listens. And that's just a sign of good art. On top of that, I will say that this was the best concert of the year. I saw these guys in a 600 cap venue, Majestic Theater in Madison, and it was just such a fun show, guys. So yeah, I know I'm not beating the performative male allegations with this one, but the hype is real, and I've been on the hype train for a while now. You can go back and watch my 2023 top albums list and see that I had Geese on there as well. So it's just awesome to see them finally getting their shine. Coming in at number 1, my top spot of 2025 is Sable Fable from Bon Iver. Sable Fable is seemingly the final project from Bon Iver, and it came after a 5-year wait. I can happily say that this is the most complete and cohesive album of their entire discography. On this, we see some of the most tender and touching songwriting of Justin's career. He delves into an almost sensual R&B sound on the latter half of this album. If you guys didn't know, Sable, the Black Square, is the first 4 tracks of the album, and they represent the dark, folksy roots of Bon Iver, whereas Fable, being the salmon exterior, represent a rebirth of the Bon Iver sound. This is a change that signifies a lot of growth, and we see Justin happier than he's ever been, more content, and more confident in his songwriting. But yeah, this was bound to be my number 1. I'm pretty biased towards this band, being a Wisconsin boy. It just delivered on every aspect. Such unique songs on this album, such a beautiful listen, and just infinite replay value. So yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. Those have been my top 25 albums of 2025. Thank you for checking in. If this video gets 3 views, I'm going to do this video next year.